Okay, so this is image analysis with your image analysis grid and Mr. D. This is part 2. Finishing the image analysis grid and constructing a claim, an evidence-based claim using all of the analysis. Okay? All right. So I'm going to zoom in here. We have the purpose and the subject for each one. I'm zooming in. You did image 1, 2, and 3, and you're supposed to do 4 on your own. You can see the numbers, right? Okay. So hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Let's go. Everyone take a look. I'm going to image 4, so make sure that you're on image 4. Okay, so now you have image 4. We're on purpose. See, it's in turquoise. So scroll down to purpose of your image 4. So in image 4, we had an individual in medieval Europe on the right who seems to be sick. So maybe they have the plague, symptoms of the plague, and they're vomiting, they're throwing up. You can see a female, what seems to be a female, holding the head of that individual who's sick, and another female who seems to be dressed like a Christian nun holding out the hands, and that implies praying. Okay, so now we take a look at this image, and this image shows us, well, what was life like during this time of the Black Death where people were getting sick? It seems like it's not an image of conflict, fighting, it's an image of helping, right? Building relationships. So you have an individual helping the sick person, and the Christian church is praying for them to get better, or if they pass, praying for their souls. So what is the purpose of image 4? Take a look. To inform how Christians should interact and treat each other after catching the Black Death. That is the purpose. So while this is happening, while this entire sickness is spreading along Europe, Christians can look to these paintings to understand how to act, what to do, how to change their lives. Okay? So that is the purpose, why the individual painted this, to inform how Christians should interact and treat each other. Okay? Now, what is the message in here, highlighted in blue? If you are a good Christian, you will take care of one another and pray for each other's souls, evidenced by the person that's sick, the individual who's taking care of that individual, and the Christian church that's praying for their souls. So you have influence of the Christian church here on the lives of these people. That's how you perform analysis at a level 4 on these images. Make sure you're making these changes as I'm going through this. Okay, so we're on number 4. This was the purpose, and this was the message in the image. Make sure you're making your changes. We're going to move on to image 5. There's a lot going on in image 5. So if you take a look at image 5, first off, you see all the detail in the room. So you would think, okay, what kind of a family lives in this room? Are they poor or are they rich? Well, from all the detail, the decoration, the way people are dressed, you can make an assumption that this is the room of a wealthy aristocrat, a wealthy landowner, somebody with money and power at that time. Then immediately what jumps at you is this giant, tall skeleton holding a spear, and at the tip of the spear, there's an arrow pointing strangely the opposite way. So you have to think about it from previous images. If Jesus is up in heaven, where did this individual come from? You would think the skeleton down from hell. So what climbs out of hell to take the souls of people? You have to think the name was the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper would climb out of hell, according to Christian tradition, to take people's souls. So if you got sick with the Black Death and you were not so much of a good person while you lived, if you were a sinner and you're going to die from the Black Death, the Grim Reaper is coming to take your soul. Of, interestingly enough, a wealthy person, right? So in previous images, maybe the people that we see looked kind of poor. This person is definitely rich. So the Grim Reaper will come to take your soul if you catch the Black Death, regardless of your social status, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it doesn't matter to the Black Death. You're going to pass from the disease, and according to the Christian tradition, if you're a good person, you go to heaven. If you're evil, the Grim Reaper will come to take your soul. So the purpose is to inform how number 5 in blue, to inform wealthy Christians that even you can get sick too. And if you're evil, the Grim Reaper will come for your soul. So how can you react to that if you're a rich Christian? Pray. Follow the Christian church. More influence of the Christian church during this time. Okay? So what could be the message here? The message. Well, the Black Death affected rich, poor, and all members of society. Okay, now highlighted in blue. Okay, so you can see how we're doing this. Make sure you're making changes. We're going to move on to image 6. Okay, image 6, so you can see here is image 6 purpose. Image 6, you see the image of a small town, life in a small town. Image 6 for you artists has a vanishing point that creates depth in the image. In other words, follow the road. Let's walk down the road. At the bottom center, where we would step onto the road and into the image, you see a man who seems like he's fallen. He's in distress by the look on his face. You see a dead body wrapped in a white shroud and an individual attempting to lift that person. Walk further down the image and you see an individual carrying another dead body. And all the way in the top center of the image, if you walk down that road, you can see the back of a horse pulling a cart filled with dead bodies wrapped in shrouds. On the left side of the image, you see people that have facial expressions that would show distress. They're under stress, right? Or they're sad. And on the right side, you can see images that reflect priests from the Catholic Church that are praying for the souls of the deceased who passed from the Black Plague and the people that are living who are suffering from it. So what is the purpose? Why would an artist get out of bed and go to their studio and paint that image? Highlighted in blue, to inform people that you can only turn to your priest for salvation to be saved. Who is the only individuals in that image that are doing a lot of the helping? That is the Christian priests, okay? I'll add Christian. You can turn to your Christian priests for salvation to be saved, okay? This matches up with the other pieces of evidence that Christianity had a powerful influence in the way people lived their lives during this time. People's lives definitely changed because of the disease. It also changed because of the power of Christianity. Okay? What is the message? Highlighted in blue to show the overall significant impact of the Black Death on everyday society. Everyday life. There we go. Okay, highlighted in blue. These images are telling a story. The images are based on what really happened back then. They're like a window into the past, a time machine into learning about life in medieval Europe during the Black Plague. Image 7, let's take a look at image 7. Now, if you look closely, you realize that this is sad, this image. You have a number of individuals. Now, it seems like there's tall individuals, there's small individuals. You can infer that these are family members, okay? There's a lot of them. They seem to be carrying coffins and digging graves and placing the coffins in the graves. This is a really sad image here. And you can see that facial expressions look very sad. And what you can infer from this image, why would somebody paint this image? Well, to inform Christian Europeans at the time what to do if family members die from the disease. How to react. How should I react if I'm a father and 4 of my children have passed? Well, you need to honor them in the Christian tradition. You put them in the coffin and you bury them into the ground. It also informs how they reacted to the disease. They helped friends and family by placing people in coffins in the Christian tradition and bury them in the ground. Okay? Now, what's the message here? Highlighted in blue. Most people in Europe lost many family members and had to cope with grief. This is how they dealt with it. Okay? They were influenced by the Christian church to perform Christian traditions and bury their family members themselves in the Christian tradition, coffin and burial. Okay? Powerful influence of Christianity on the everyday lives of European people who lived during the Black Death. We have 2 major conclusions that we keep drawing: the power of the Black Death and how it changed people's lives, and the influence of the Christian church and how it changed people's lives. Again and again, it's matching. Let's move to image 8. There's a lot going on in image 8. Okay? Stories to be told. So we have a skeleton riding something that looks like a skeleton horse over people, crowds of people. And it seems like the horse is running wild and its hooves, its feet are stomping on the crowds of the people. What is going on in this image? Well, again, the skeleton, just like in image 5, you see the skeleton would be a symbol of the Grim Reaper to come to take the souls of sinners, according to the Christian tradition. He's riding a skeleton horse, and in this case, this horse symbolizes the Black Death. So the Grim Reaper has come out of hell to ride the disease over all of European society to take the souls of the sinners who die from the Black Death. Wow. Why would an artist go to their studio and paint this image? So from image 8, highlighted in blue, to inform how powerful the impact of the Black Death really was. It wasn't just villages, it wasn't just towns, it was also cities, kingdoms, all of European society. Okay? And this also raises the importance of Christian prayer. The power of this disease is so strong, the only way to fight back, pray, according to the Christian tradition. Okay? That's the purpose of image 8. Well, what's the message here? Well, the message is the Black Death destroyed most of European society as they knew it. Okay? It was never the same after the Black Death swept through Western Europe. Okay? Highlighted in blue. That's the message here. Okay. We're going to move on to image 9 and finish this. Image 9 is another image that reflects death and destruction. Now, if you go all the way back to image 1, you realize there's a progression here. You have one person that's sick and they're looking for guidance from the Catholic Church, influence of the Catholic Church. 2, somebody that looks sicker, that looks like they're on the edge of death and now they're sinking into hell because they're not following the guidance of the Catholic Church. So they're going to hell. Now you have multiple people who look like they're even more sick. This disease is advanced, multiple people together dying from the disease. How should Christians who are living in Europe react to that? Take care of each other, as evidenced in image 4. Image 5, even the wealthy can die too. Image 6, now they show all of society suffering. Image 7, certain death of 1 out of every 2 people in European society. Image 8, now it's absolute chaos. So many are dying. Image 9 reflects something like the end of the world as they knew it. So in this image, you would assume there would be trees, villages, even cities or kingdoms. No more. The absolute death and destruction of the Black Death. So what is the purpose of this image? To inform how the Black Death reshaped European society. It almost wiped it out, and they had to rebuild from scratch. And it was never the same since. Okay? What is the message here? The message, I can think of one word that reflects that image: devastation. Absolute devastation. So the message: the Black Death devastated European society and reshaped the way people lived. That reflects devastation. Mr. D, I filled out all my grids. I followed you like you said. I listened to your directions. All of my grid is filled out. Why did you make me fill this out, Mr. D? What is the point? What should I do with it next? Now, looking at all of this, okay? Looking at all of this, you use all of the purpose and all of the meaning, the message, to answer the claim that we asked you in the first place. What was the Black Death and how did it change the course of European history? I need to figure out 3 ideas that I learned from all these boxes. What are the 3 biggest ideas? The 3 biggest things I realized from looking at all of those boxes. And those are my 3 conclusions. I'm asking you to draw 3 conclusions, 3 things you learned. Conclusion 1, conclusion 2, conclusion 3. Well, let's go look back and reread before we put the conclusions in. Follow me. This is an essential part of what you're doing. Do you want to become more intelligent? Do you want to grow and become a complex thinker, to be successful, to make the map of your life real? Focus in this moment. Okay. What was the Black Death? We know the Black Death was a disease and it was deadly or fatal. So we've answered that part. How did it change the course of European history? How did this disease change the way people lived? That's what we need to know. Okay. So remember, Mr. D kept reiterating, saying over and over again, a theme that keeps matching, the stories that keeps matching. Let's look again to see if we can realize it. Okay, purpose: to inform the audience what to do if you get sick. Okay, so there's a Christian influence in there if you get sick. To inform the audience what happens to a sick person if they're a sinner. More evidence of a Christian influence. To inform the audience where to go for medical attention and healing. Okay, that there was some medical attention. How Christians should interact and treat each other. More Christian tradition. To inform wealthy Christians that even you can get sick. So pray. More Christian influence. It matches, it matches, it matches. To inform people that you can only turn to your Christian priest to be saved. This also matches the Christian influence. What to do if your family members die from the disease. You bury them in the Christian tradition. More Christian influence. How to inform how powerful the impact of the Black Death was, raising the importance of Christian prayer. Christian influence and the power of the Black Death. 2 themes that keep matching again and again. To inform the power of the Black Death, how it reshapes society. That matches the second one. Let's look at the bottom. The Black Death was a fatal sickness in which people turned to Christianity and prayer. Wow. The power of the Black Death, 1, and the influence of Christianity, 2. We have 2 major conclusions so far. Christian church used paintings to educate people, influence the Catholic Church, Christian church. People who suffered from the Black Death were placed in rooms together, looking for medical attention. So there is some medical attention. If you're a good Christian, you take care of one another. Influence of the Christian church. The Black Death affected rich and poor, all members of society. To show the overall significant impact of the Black Death, the influence of the Black Death. Most people in Europe lost many family members. Influence of the Black Death. Destroyed most of European society. Influence of the Black Death. Devastated European society, reshaped the way people lived. Influence of the Black Death. Two major conclusions so far. The influence of the Black Death was powerful, and the influence of Christianity on the lives of people was powerful. Let's take a look at our two major conclusions. Copy these down. Conclusion one, the Black Death devastated European society. That's what I learned from my level 4 image analysis. And conclusion two, Christianity had a powerful influence on Europeans during the Black Death. I would say powerful influence on the lives of Europeans during the Black Death. We looked at 9 images. We filled out an entire analysis grid. We reread what we learned from the grid to see what matches and what agrees. Just like the stories from the lunchroom fight, what matches and what agrees almost always points closest to the truth in life and in history. So the two themes that match all these little boxes, if you rearrange them, the ones that would match the most is conclusion one, the Black Death devastated European society, and conclusion two, Christianity had a powerful influence on the lives of Europeans during the Black Death. What could we write for conclusion three? I would go a little bit more into detail. How did Christianity have a powerful influence? How did people's lives change? What did they do differently? And conclusion three, I would say the Black Death reshaped the way people lived by praying to save their souls and taking care of family and neighbors. Changing it a little bit. By praying to save their souls and taking care of family and neighbors. Let's say members of society. Make sure you're copying this down. I'm going to turn this in before you leave to prove to me that you have evidence that you've learned something today and you're working hard to learn how to think at a level 4. Mr. D, why are you making me write down 3 conclusions or 3 ideas that I learned from that entire analysis activity? In order to answer this question, I'm highlighting in blue. This is the prompt. It goes back to the challenge. What was the Black Death? We learned. How did it change the course of European history? We just learned the 3 most significant or important ways that the Black Death changed the course of European history. There they are in yellow. That's how it changed the course of European history. You figured it out using a skill called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is where you take something very general, all these general ideas swimming in your head, and you narrow them down to the most important ideas. We looked at 9 images, filled out an entire analysis grid with all these boxes, and we zoomed all the way into these 3 important ideas. Now we put these 3 ideas together, rephrased the prompt, and we can answer this question. What was the Black Death? Rephrase that. The Black Death was, I would say, a deadly disease or a fatal disease. How did it change the course of European history? Well, the Black Death was a fatal disease that devastated the lives of the people who lived in Europe. So they turned to the power of Christianity to be able to deal with suffering and death, right? So let's reword that and make it perfect. Everybody take a look at what I have in green. What was the Black Death? And how did it change the course of European history? Now we get to the final. The Black Death was a fatal disease that devastated European society and reshaped the way people lived because Christianity gained a strong influence. There it is, Christianity had a powerful influence. Conclusion 2, I included it here. Christianity gained a strong influence on the lives of Europeans as a way to deal with sickness, suffering, loss, and salvation. And that's the way it reshaped, by people praying to save their souls and taking care of family and friends. Student has now become the teacher. Student, what was the Black Death and how did it change the course of European history? Mr. D, the Black Death, oh man, it was a fatal disease, a deadly disease. And it devastated European society, villages, towns, kingdoms. Mr. D, it reshaped the way people lived at that time in Europe. Because Christianity gained a strong influence on the lives of Europeans as a way to deal with all the sickness that they had to deal with, all the suffering, the pain, the loss. So they turned to Christianity to pray in order to save the souls of the people who died and deal with the sickness and suffering of the people who lived. That is how you perform image-based analysis at a level 4 in order to create a claim in which you have 9 pieces of image-based evidence to back up that claim. I'm going to give you another minute or 2 to make sure you have exactly what is here. Okay. All right. Now, yes, you write everything that you just saw in yellow. You write that all, and you write the green. You copy the whole thing down. That's what you were supposed to be doing. Okay. I'll put it back up and give you 2 minutes if you did not copy it. Okay. You must copy. I said this 10 times today. You must copy. Copy what I'm doing. I'm modeling it so you understand how to do this. There it is. Make sure you're copying it word for word. The next time we do this, I'm not going to show you how. I'm going to expect you to try to figure it out on your own. Oh, I forgot what to do. You go back and watch the video, or you go back and look at this, and you're like, oh, I see what to do now. You get your 3 conclusions from those boxes, and then you put them together to react to the prompt. That's it. Make sure that's copied word for word.